Dear friends, a huge political scandal broke out in Germany when the opposition Alternative for Germany party publicly announced its intention to restore and commission the Nord Stream gas pipeline. This bold statement was made by the co-chairman of the party, Tina Frgallo, in her New Year's address to the citizens. "We will repair and commission the Nord Stream. Germany should be functioning, not plunging into economic chaos," she said. This statement instantly blew up the German political space, becoming one of the most discussed topics in the country. The AfD leaders have clearly outlined the importance of the upcoming Bundestag elections, presenting themselves as defenders of national interests for millions of Germans faced with astronomical electricity prices. The issue promises to be very interesting, friends. Get ready to see the hottest news of this week. We're starting. Frgallo's statement was seen as a breath of fresh air, especially against the backdrop of a sharp rise in the cost of electricity in Germany. Over the past 2 years, prices have increased by more than 30%, which has seriously affected households and industry. In the 23rd year, Germany broke all anti-records for the number of bankrupt enterprises. More than 16,000 companies closed due to unprofitability. Even large industrialists such as BASF turned out to be among them, who began to shift production to China and the United States. The reaction of the ruling coalition, including Chancellor Olaf Scholz, was not long in coming. Scholz said that the restoration of the Nord Stream contradicts the course towards energy independence of Germany. However, skeptics, including economist Klaus Weidel, have noted that energy independence is hardly an achievable goal in the current environment. Germany is now dependent on American LNG, which is 3 times more expensive than Russian gas. If this is independence, then it is too expensive, Weigel stressed. The reaction of German politicians to this proposal ranged from sarcasm to accusations of betrayal of national interests. Economy Minister Robert Habeck, known for his commitment to green energy, quipped that the restoration of the Nord Stream pipeline could lead to the creation of a monument to Gazprom in the center of Berlin. Nevertheless, some political scientists believe that Frgallo's statements reflect the real sentiments of a significant part of society. The AfD clearly resonates with some voters, offering them not so much solutions as convenient illusions. The AfD's popularity continues to grow, and according to recent polls, the party is being supported more and more. Frgallo's statement did not go unnoticed outside of Germany. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán called this initiative common sense in a crazy world. The restoration of the Nord Stream gas pipeline was proposed as the first step towards Europe's energy stability, and this statement provoked strong reactions both in Germany and abroad. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán supported the AfD initiative, saying that Germany should demonstrate common sense and not follow the destructive sanctions. He stressed that the restoration of the gas pipeline could be an important step towards improving the situation, as Europe is facing energy difficulties and dependence on more expensive alternatives such as American LNG continues to grow. However, many European countries, including the United States, reacted to this proposal with obvious irritation. Representatives of the U.S. State Department noted that a return to Russian gas would undermine efforts to diversify energy supplies, which contradicts the long-term U.S. strategy regarding energy security. This statement highlights the existing contradictions in the policies of Western countries and their approach to energy independence and security. Interestingly, as expert York Meyer noted, the United States actually continues to import Russian energy through third countries, and in 2023, American imports of Russian petroleum products increased by 25%. This only adds fuel to the discussion about how transparent and honest the West's approach to Russian energy resources is. Nevertheless, the AfD continues to gain support, especially in the eastern German states, where voters see the party as a real alternative to the ruling elites. This is due to the economic difficulties faced by many residents of the eastern regions, where energy prices are rising and industry is suffering from high electricity costs. In response to such challenges, AfD leader Tina Frgallo proposed to return cheap gas and jobs, saying that if the party can cope with this, then let it continue its actions, despite the criticism. At the same time, the restoration of the Nord Stream is facing serious technical challenges. The pipeline was significantly damaged as a result of sabotage, and its restoration will require significant financial investments, about 10 billion euros, half of which will be used to repair the damage. In addition, the project has attracted criticism from environmental activists who claim that it contradicts Germany's long-term goal of achieving carbon neutrality. They believe that continued dependence on fossil fuels is a step backwards for the whole of Europe. Despite these problems, economist Hans Lehr notes that in the context of the economic crisis, which makes it difficult to achieve environmental ambitions, the AFG offers a practical way, albeit a radical one. The party's initiatives divide society, increasing polarization. On the one hand, there are disappointed citizens who support its position. On the other, supporters of the green policy protesting against the possible restoration of the gas pipeline. Actions under the slogans "No to Russian gas" and "Yes to renewable energy" have already been held in Berlin and Hamburg. Political analysts predict that if the AfD can gain enough votes to implement its plans, it will be a powerful signal of the failure of the current government. Experts identify three main scenarios for the development of events. The first is that the complete restoration of Nord Stream will lead to lower energy prices, but will cause new sanctions and tensions with allies. The second is that partial use of the pipeline will allow a compromise to be found between economic and political interests. The third is that the refusal to restore will damage the reputation of the AfD, but it will retain the support of the international community. The decision on the fate of Nord Stream will be a crucial moment in the election race, dividing politicians and society. For some, this is a chance to save the German economy. For others, it is a dangerous step towards a new dependence on Russia. Germany today finds itself in a situation where the promises of switching to green energy sound tempting, but the reality shows a completely different result. In the 23rd year, renewable energy production decreased by 12%, and the cost of installing new wind turbines increased by 40% due to rising prices for raw materials. These factors underline that energy independence and sustainability remain elusive goals for the country. One thing is clear: energy policy will remain a hot topic in German politics for many years to come. At this time, despite the difficulties, representatives of the German government are taking unexpected steps. For example, the co-chair of the SPD, the expected chancellor, suggested resuming telephone talks between the president of the Russian Federation and the German chancellor in order to find out what can be done to bring the conflict in Ukraine to an end. The statement was made with such enthusiasm, as if a solution had already been found and it was only necessary to announce the results of the negotiations. It looked like a gesture of goodwill, but in Germany the reaction to this proposal was far from unanimous. Christian Democrat Jürgen Hart soon reacted, saying that Putin regards any attempts by the West to contact him as confirmation of his erroneous theory that the unity of the free world is crumbling, and his victory is already close. He noted that the situation is developing in such a way that we must sit and wait for Putin to realize his mistake. Such statements, in his opinion, only aggravate the situation, and Germany should be more active in its policy. Experts, in turn, emphasize that such statements only indicate Berlin's confusion. Political scientist Franz Joseph Müller quips that this looks like an attempt to throw the ball on Russia's side in order to absolve himself of responsibility. The problem, he said, is that Germany is no longer sure which strategy to choose, and therefore it is torn between dialogue and confrontation. Even within the cabinet of ministers, there is a split in foreign policy issues. At the same time, Chancellor Olaf Scholz found himself at the center of a new scandal. The CDU spread rumors that he was planning a trip to Moscow before the Bundestag elections, which provoked a strong reaction from the Chancellor, who dramatically and lightly theatrically declared that this was a false statement and nothing like this would happen. He stressed that such rumors are the height of indecency. And in response, the government announced the preparation of a lawsuit against the deputy who spread these rumors. Naturally, according to official sources, Putin is to blame for this, as always. Experts sarcastically comment that Berlin seems to have no other explanations for its internal problems other than accusations against the Russian side. Everything that goes wrong in Germany is conveniently attributed to Putin. This avoids the real causes of problems, but it is completely ineffective, political scientist Anna Stolz emphasizes. Germany continues to surprise its citizens when faced with anti-records. So, inflation in December last year was almost 3%, and the real figure reaches a shocking 57%. This is the third month in a row that prices have been rising rapidly. In response, German politicians smilingly declare, "Dear fellow citizens, we promised you economic growth, but we did not specify what exactly would grow." According to the latest survey, only 17% of Germans believe that the economic situation will improve this year. 1 in 3 complains about a decline in living standards, and 1 in 4 is still satisfied with their financial situation, probably due to reserves for a rainy day. The HOMA expert notes that Germany risks finally losing its economic potential, as the industry continues to suffer. Meanwhile, the government is focusing on other priorities, for example, discussing what should be the form of the next tax breaks for corporations. And ordinary citizens? Let them be patient, because patience is a German virtue. The Minister of Economy and Climate Protection of North Rhine-Westphalia, Manuel Bauer, promised to build 1,000 wind turbines in 5 years in the 22nd year. The plan was ambitious, inspiring, and, as it turned out, completely impossible. By the end of last year, only about 100 turbines had been built, and the noise from them is already causing protests from local residents. "We wanted ecology, but we got insomnia and headaches," people complain. The construction of new wind turbines has been frozen, and support from Berlin has been thrown at crises and support for the country, given the low rating of the Greens and the upcoming elections. Bauer will probably remain in history as a minister who promised but failed to deliver on his promises. However, the candidates for the post of chancellor from the Green Party are not worried about these failures. They are still confident of their victory. In general, political life in Germany continues to boil over. For example, the head of the defense concern, Oliver Deer, is sounding the alarm, stating that by the 29th year, Russia will have reached such a potential that it will be able to attack NATO. To avoid a catastrophe, he proposes to increase defense spending to 3 to 3.5% of GDP and consolidate this goal in the Basic Law of the Federal Republic of Germany. For this, the Bundeswehr urgently needs tanks, planes, ships, and modernization of equipment, which will require 200 to 300 billion euros and at least 10 years. Experts call such plans an ideal scenario for defense concerns, as they guarantee stable profits for decades to come. The question remains, no matter how much we spend, can we catch up with Russia and China in building up weapons? We won't be able to anyway, but that's no reason to turn down new contracts. Analyst Inga Kraus sarcastically remarks. Here's a recent example for you friends. The German foreign minister, Anna Baerbock, has once again found herself at the center of a scandal. Her visit to Syria sparked a firestorm of discussion after Syrian government accounts published photos in which Baerbock was deliberately smeared. For comparison, none of the representatives in the pictures with the French and British delegations were subjected to such censorship. After returning to Germany, Baerbock said that the country would provide assistance to Syria only if women's rights were respected. This principled gesture caused a flurry of sarcastic comments on social media. Maybe we should start by protecting women's rights in Germany first, and then we'll deal with Syria? Users write, Germany is looking more and more like a drama series, where every episode is full of scandals, failures, and paradoxes of politics. With enviable persistence, they shift responsibility to external factors, avoiding real solutions. But, as you know, as long as there is a sense of humor, there is hope. German burghers are patient, of course, but even their patience has a limit. Olaf Scholz received a dubious award for the most unpopular New Year's address. Internet users did not appreciate his efforts. The Chancellor's video scored only 500,000 views on TikTok and 64,000 on YouTube. By comparison, the New Year's address by other politicians aroused much more interest. Scholz still managed to set one record. His address was watched on television by 5 million Germans. However, this is hardly a reason for pride, because there simply were no other alternatives on the leading TV channels. German viewers were forced to turn on the TV in order to at least partially feel the spirit of the passing year, even to the accompaniment of the Chancellor's dubious rhetoric. Against the background of this failure, a new controversy broke out related to the statements of Elon Musk, who decided to publicly support the alternative for Germany. The American billionaire once again challenged the political establishment, calling AfD a party that advocates economic freedom, a pragmatic approach to energy, education reforms, and a sober migration policy. Musk stressed that Germany needs such changes to overcome the weakening of its industry and economic stagnation. However, his remarks provoked a strong reaction in the German media, especially from the editor-in-chief of Die Welt, Philipp Burghardt. In his column, he attacked Musk, accusing him of a lack of understanding of German politics. Burghardt argued that the alternative for Germany threatens European unity, as it advocates Germany's withdrawal from the EU. He also noted that the AfD's migration policy is too strict, and the party's energy initiatives, including the resumption of nuclear power plants and the lifting of sanctions against Russia, may lead to a new dependence on Moscow. Musk, in turn, hinted that Burghardt's accusations are a set of clichés. According to the billionaire, calls for educational reforms and technological development have nothing to do with the editor's geopolitical fears. Musk also recalled that Germany's success has always been based on economic freedom and common sense, and not on inheriting the bureaucratic attitudes of Brussels. This dispute has become another example of how sharply views on the future of Germany have been divided. On the one hand, a part of society continues to believe in the liberal policies and values of the EU. On the other hand, support for conservative decisions is growing. Elon Musk not only drew attention to the problems of the German economy, but also proved once again that he remains one of the most provocative figures of our time. Friends, I would like to summarize the material and add my thoughts. To be honest, this whole situation is starting to cause me not only frustration, but also real annoyance. Every new scandal, whether it's Baerbock's visits or Scholz's questionable New Year's addresses, only confirms that politics is in utter chaos. The visit to Syria with its strange, smeared photos looks like a farce. Instead of solving real problems inside the country, like women's rights, which they love to talk about, German politicians put on international shows that cause more ridicule than respect. It feels like they've completely forgotten who chose them and why. I can't help but mention this pathetic New Year's address by Scholz. Yes, 5 million viewers sounds impressive, but only because people simply had no choice. There's nothing worse than being forced to turn on the TV to somehow try to find a festive mood. Instead, we are listening to another stream of rhetoric that does not inspire, but only tires. While other politicians are somehow trying to attract attention and talk about specific reforms, Scholz is drowning in his own indifference and prepared speeches. And here's another mask. Of course, his statements sound provocative, but I cannot but agree that Germany really needs to change. We are stuck in some kind of economic stagnation and political game in place. The criticism of the AfD is understandable, but let's face it. At least they offer an alternative. Our government only shifts the blame to external factors, turning a blind eye to the problems that are accumulating here and now. It feels like if it weren't for foreigners like Musk, no one would even point out that it's time for them to shake things up. Thank you for your attention. Friends, I want to ask you to write a comment on this issue. I want to know what you think about it. I wish you good health. See you, friends.